do have fond memories as a child with cassette tapes, but I think they're more special to me because the point in my life where I started making the cassette art, I was so broke I couldn't afford a CD player, and that's why I had cassette tapes laying around. And it made me appreciate maybe that little part of the struggle, you know, because had I not gone through that, who knows? Hello, my name is Erica Iris. I live in Chicago and I'm a cassette tape artist. In my early 20s, I had no money and I really wanted to make some artwork. I had just gone to Europe and I saw the street art scene and how vibrant and fun it was, and when I got home, I just could not think of anything else. So at the time I was waiting tables and just doing what I could, so I just went through my whole house and found whatever I could use to tear up and make a collage out of. And after about 6 months of that, I pulled a ribbon out of cassette tape and it curled up, and the curls reminded me of Jimi Hendrix's crazy hair, so that was the first portrait I did. In my art, I try to take something old and breathe new life into it, make it new again. So a lot of my work involves taking something old, taking it apart, examining the components, and putting them back together or painting them in such a way to make the viewer think of their own memories of it, or, I don't know, breathe new life. If you're old enough to remember cassettes, but I remember running across the house to try and to record, you know, my favorite songs from the radio, just barely. But I think there's a lot of nostalgia to that era and the physicality of it being on a thing. Sometimes when people donate the tapes to me, there will be some mixtapes mixed in with the handwritten little inserts of the songs and their clever covers. I love those. I don't use them, I just keep them. I feel like I'm gonna have a little archive of forgotten love notes and mixtapes, and I just love that. Well, we have thousands of records in this house. I know that. Probably thousands of cassette tapes too. I've gotten boxes of tapes from people all over the world. You can't find cassette tapes at thrift stores anymore. I mean, they're so hard to find. I am very lucky that I do still get donations from people occasionally, but the tapes that I use most often are high fidelity tapes, specialty audio tapes, because cassette tapes come in so many different colors, and I use the ones that are the long 90 or 100-minute tapes, and that way I get the most out of it. But I still have to buy them occasionally, and you'd be surprised, even the collectors, Jimi Hendrix, The Clash, I pay $40 for a cassette tape sometimes. If that's what the customer really wants, then you have to go track it down, and that can be quite difficult. So when I start unraveling the cassette tape, it makes me feel like I'm unspooling history or the data a little bit. And when I first started the series, I called it The Ghost in the Machine. And I wanted to bring out the ghost from the data and those whispers of the past and bring that to present. I can make 3 pretty large pieces out of one tape. Maybe, I don't know if it's a football field, but I would say it's a lot. It can be difficult when you start a project. When you begin, you have this beautiful thing in your mind, and slowly it starts to become and evolve something else. And struggling to keep it, that fresh idea that you have, can be a challenge. And some things just don't turn out well. But I think it's half trial and error and half luck. Like you really have to just kind of like surf and ride a little bit, because when I start, like I described the stencil part or the sketching, and you really need good bones to have a final good product, but you also need to let the shapes do what they're gonna do. Because if you try to force things, it's disaster. And if you make a mistake, it's easier just to start over than try and repair. It's a very delicate material, and as soon as things start tearing, it's very hard to repair it. When I imagine a piece, I tend to sketch a lot. Sometimes I'll do 5, 10 sketches before I start anything else. And I want to really nail down the shapes. As I draw the stencil, and then I glue a layer of flat tape over the whole stencil. And so imagine like when you're spray painting, you cut out a stencil and then you spray paint over it and then you lift up the stencil. So the negative I put on the canvas, and then I can exactly place where all the pieces go. And so long as I don't lose any, it works very well. It's very peaceful, very zen. The cassette's not continuous. I have done pieces where I've kept it as continuous as possible and just twisted it and crimped it down when I needed to. But I've been doing this a long time, and I feel like at the end of the day, it's more beautiful to cut out the pieces, get everything exactly right, and that just gives me the sense of I've made this as beautiful as it can be. Yeah, the tape doesn't love so much manipulation. I think just simple folds, clean lines, that's really where it is. Customer who wanted 3 old Hollywood film stars made out of 8mm film with their old metal Goldberg reels, which are just beautiful. And so the one on the desk is Audrey Hepburn from Breakfast at Tiffany's, and she's all spiraling out of this film reel. But it's very tricky at the end because I try to make it transition from the actual film reel into the image very seamlessly, and I have to glue down and be very careful about gravity and making sure everything is sticking where it needs to stick magically. So I have everything glued down at the moment with scissors weighing it down. Scissors are beautiful for levers and they're interesting proportions, so I pile them, and that seems to do the trick for keeping everything weighted down until it's dried. I used to use, in my art, I usually find materials, whatever you can find at the thrift store. I love finding something that is old, that is forgotten, maybe is past its prime, and then try and reimagine it and think about it in a way of what someone once thought was special about it. So one day my husband brought home a pile of records, and he thought I could maybe use them. So I've been cutting them very intricately so that they fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. And I love the geometry of bringing that to life. I think about the physicality of the material a lot and what its strengths and weaknesses are. And my favorite part of working with the tapes and the records are the straight lines, and using that as a real focal point and trying to emphasize in, even if I'm making an image that has been made a lot before me, trying to do it in such a way that I'm making my own statement with it by letting the material do the talking. I like that a lot. So most of the artists I choose are requests from people, but there have been many that I just adore. The Aretha Franklin. I love anytime a singer really puts so much emotion in their song and it comes through even in the image. And I think making that image then out of the cassette tape brings it back home in a way. I get asked to do Bruce Springsteen a lot. Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, Prince. I think that's it. Those would be the top ones. The Beatles. I think every material has its own highs and lows, or pros and cons. The cassette tape, I love the shine and the texture, and like I said, the straight lines and the geometry. They just clean everything up so nicely. With the film, 8mm film specifically, I love the way that the holes kind of interact with the artwork, and the plastic is thicker, so you get these beautiful wave-like motions sometimes. Yeah, every material has its own language in a way, and if you can just get out of the way and let it be itself as much as possible, I think that's like being a chef. Just let the ingredient shine. I can think of so many stubborn, difficult projects, but those are the ones that I end up enjoying the most because I love a challenge and I want it to be good, and I want to go to sleep at night knowing that I tried everything to get it there. I think of words like old, trash, and junk as having potential. And I think that's, you know, renewable energies and things. We're seeing potentialities in these old forms. And I think in art, that's a very powerful thing, to take an old idea that was powerful at its peak and maybe over the years has become dusty and forgotten. And to be able to blow off that dust and embrace the history of it, I really love that.